Hi, everyone, and welcome again to another episode of Against the Tide. And I'm your host, Brother Chris Calitina. And today, we're doing something very, very special kasi ngayong araw po ay pag-uusapan po namin ang launching ng aming newest documentary, which is The Unknown God. Okay, this is actually a documentary that is a project of Verity Baptist Church Philippines. Kudos to Pastor Matthew Stocky for thinking about this idea of having a documentary, and we're kind of be the people at the back of the documentary na nag-collate and nag-edit and things like that, and we want to give a very special episode of our podcast, or dedicate a very special episode of our podcast for this documentary, because obviously we believe that this is something that a lot of people need to understand, especially po dito sa Pilipinas. Okay. Now, just to give you a starter, we will be having in this episode, obviously, my co-host, Brother Mark Tindan, and we have Pastor Matthew Stuckey as our host. Supposedly, dapat nandito rin po si Brother Kyle. Unfortunately, due to some technical difficulties, he was not able to actually speak. Okay. Pero, so, nandun siya sana sa online. Kasi what we're trying to do here, sana, sa episode na to, was to record it sa Verity Baptist Church Philippines, not on our regular online platform, which is powered by StreamYard. Okay, unfortunately, medyo baguhan pa po kami, and we didn't expect, the technical difficulties that we are going to encounter. Kaya nga, if you're going to see, I'm recording this one is kind of an introduction, just to give you, the basics and set up your expectations throughout the podcast. Okay. The podcast was really, I think, a great in terms of content. Pagpasensyahan nyo lang po yung camera namin because it's kind of laggy. We tried our best. Some of the parts of basically at least are laggy kasi we tried our best to um, use the resources that we have. Unfortunately, it doesn't turn out great, but the content was great. Okay, so kaya personally to me, I don't want it to, to be redone or something like that. Just for the sake na baka mawala kasi yung essence of pinag-uusapan po namin. Okay, so, but anyways, okay, so I want you to listen to this podcast. Okay, kung kayo po ay interesado sa mga ganitong klase ng content, we encourage you to like this content, share this content, and subscribe. And especially, okay, this is very, very important na panoorin po ninyo ang live namin, or ang launching ng amin pong documentary, The Unknown God, sa Verity Baptist YouTube channel, Verity Baptist Church Manila.
Evening, we have our pastor, Pastor Matt Stuckey, from Verity Baptist Church Manila. Kamusta po kayo, Pastor?
Mabuti ako. Pretty good.
Yeah,
So happy to be on here. It's a really important topic to talk about.
and I'm with my co-host, Brother Kyle and Brother Chris. Kamusta kayo, mga bro?
I'm good. Dito kami sa church ngayon. How about Brother Kyle? Brother Kyle? Kamusta ka, Brother Kyle? So, pasensya na kayo ngayon kasi medyo we're kind of, in a new setup. Actually, first time po namin mag-live na, as in setup na ganito. But anyways, this is our special episode, and ngayong araw po ito, we're gonna talk about idolatry. Okay? Especially because we have, as a church, we have a project, and we're gonna talk about this sa podcast na to, yung i-launch namin na The Unknown God. We actually obviously saw it. Anong opinion mo dun sa napanood mo?
My opinion on the unknown God is unique. It's an excellent documentary because wala pa ako nakikitang ganong klaseng documentary dito sa Pilipinas. At the same time, wala akong nakakagawa, I think, ng ganong klaseng documentary na isang Baptist church ang nakagawa, especially local Baptist church here in the Philippines. So para sa akin, it's an excellent documentary, and it's a wonderful opportunity para makasama sa ganung klaseng documentary.
Yeah. So, how about you, Pastor? What do you think about the final output?
I was really happy with the outcome because obviously we talked about this a long time ago and I preached sermons on it. I knew that there's a lot of information that's going to be new to every single person that watches it. You know,
Yeah.
even if you're a pastor who's been pastoring for decades and you've read the Bible 100 times, I knew there's going to be a lot of information for people, but of course, you want a documentary to be interesting. And of course, I saw parts of it along the way, but I wasn't 100% for sure. I even asked you, is it interesting? Dad, because you did most of the work. Obviously, other people helped. Brother Mark, Brother Franklin, Brother Kyle with the music, and a lot of people helped with that. We got interviews from a lot of people, but it's interesting. It's entertaining. And that I was very happy with that. And so I was pleased, even though we had a problem with our speaker when we watched it live.
Yeah.
The sound of the documentary itself is good. We won't have that problem obviously when we upload. So I'm very pleased. A lot of great information. I learned a lot preparing it, even from what you said about Catholicism, which I'm more on the Hinduism side of the knowledge there. And so I learned a lot. And certainly in preparing it, it really helps you learn idolatry in a deep manner and what's really going on.
Because you're actually the first one who came up with the idea of creating a documentary. So we want to know, like, what made you think, like, hey, it's a good idea to make a documentary? Because when you think about churches, the problem with that is that they usually focus on like soul winning and preaching the Bible, which basically that's our real focus, right? But how do you got the idea that maybe doing a documentary would?
So I'll be honest, when I first moved here, I never had any plans to do a documentary. Because I know when we're at Verity, like Psychopath Reprobates, I didn't really do any work for that. Brother Oliver did, and it's a fantastic documentary. It takes a lot of time. It really takes a lot of time. And I just didn't know if that would be the best source of our time. But I think, obviously we get a lot of people saved. And at this point, though, we have a lot of people that are able to volunteer and excited to. I wouldn't have gone with it if I'm doing like honestly, it's not really my forte. It's not my interest. Like I'm all these videos I'm making that people watch, like I don't do much work putting them together. It's just not my interest. And so it's great if the work that's behind the scenes people are doing, which but I'll say this about idolatry that, in America, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. We'll talk about it later, but in America, you don't have physical idolatry. So then you come here and you're like, what is going on? Because like there's idols everywhere. And I already knew a lot about idolatry because I've watched a lot of documentaries on Hinduism and India. It's just been my personal interest above maybe other topics that people study on. But I had to learn on a deep level. So I really was trying to understand philosophically what is going on? Like, why is this occurring? And I was like, this is information that needs to go out to people because people do not know this information that's in the documentary.
Yeah. Because
Like for example, me myself also. Like, I grew in I grew as a Catholic. I study in Catholic school from elementary to college. Then some of the documentaries, while doing the documentaries of the known God, I was surprised by some of them I didn't know. That some it gives you more information like uh, I didn't, I didn't recall, or maybe I'm not listening to my professor back then, teaching those things. But also, surprised by there are things that I didn't know that here in the documentary I found it. I discovered that these are new in my in my knowledge like that.
yeah, because to me,
actually, I one of the discoveries I had in the documentary is that I was able to do a documentary. Like, like Pastor said, like I don't have any. When he was discussing to us the idea, I was like, "Oh, this is just what you want. You just want a video preaching where there's a lot of camera angles, and and so I was like,
This
okay,
is a real documentary, though.
yeah,
It turned out it's not just a
because we're thinking about
highlighting preaching. It's a real
yeah,
documentary.
because we're thinking at first, oh, this is going to be just like an enhanced sermon, like a sermon where a lot of graphics and things like that. But it turns out it's great. Like, yeah. But but to me, this is really appealing to especially with the Filipinos, because we don't realize the roots, the bad things. I, to me, when I made the documentary, I was especially excited about the second part. You know, because in that part, it kind of highlights all the bad effects of the idolatry here. Yeah. So, how about Brother Kyle? Brother Kyle, can you hear us? We're having hard time, Brother Kyle. So, andiyan ka na sa, andiyan ka na sa TV para di ka namin marinig. Okay. And, yeah. So, go, Brother Mark.
So, Pastor, since can you compare idolatry in America versus here? Like, you know, is there this thing like, oh, this is the same in America as the same?
So
It's
this is why I think nobody really understands this topic, because if we're being honest, all of us are like, it doesn't hurt any feelings. The best preaching in the world, by and large, comes from the United States of America.
Right.
Best churches, most preaching, most soul winning, all those things. You guys listened to online preaching before you even knew who I was, about
Yeah.
great preaching. There's great preaching in America, but you preach on the issues of your country and the issues around you. There's no physical idolatry in America. So I would even say, this isn't an insult to great pastors that know more about the Bible than me, but they've never had to deeply study idolatry to understand philosophically what's going on, unless it was a personal interest, because there's just not physical idolatry in America. Even Catholics in America, I think it's 15% Catholic in America now. It used to be almost none, but they 15, maybe 20%. But Catholics are in America are rich and increased with goods, and they don't care about religion. It's like a lot of them have misplaced their rosary beads. Right? They have no idea about this stuff. They don't care. I don't remember ever going to somebody's home. I mean, I'm sure it exists in America, but I don't remember ever going to somebody's home in America where they have their little shrine of idols of Mary and Jesus and Buddha and Peter and whomever else. I've never seen it before. I'm sure it exists in some places, but we go so many here and you see the idols in the background. You don't have that in America. And so I think it's a tough thing for people to really grasp, because preaching in America, when you talk about idolatry, it's idols of the heart,
Yeah.
sports idols. And there's nothing wrong with that. Those things are true. There's a symbolism mentioned in the Bible, but it's not about real idolatry, because you're not going to see all these massive idols like you have here. But here, I mean, you get a bit desensitized to it, but it's everywhere. It's kind of shocking when you first come here. Every American's shocked when they see all the idols. They're just like, "Whoa!" Right?
Because I was like listening, because before we had Verity Baptist here in the Philippines, I heard a sermon about idolatry from Pastor Jimenez. And I was like thinking, like, why do you have to define? Because they were in the preaching is defining, like, teddy bears are not idols. You know, the stuffed toys that your kids have, they are not idols. I was like, why do you have to
I was
explain
gonna
that?
make a joke before, like somebody might call this idolatry in America.
Yeah, because I was like, why do you have to? That's obviously not an idol. Yeah, because we are in the Philippines here, and we know that that's stuffed toys, and the statue of Christ, of Jesus Christ and Mary are totally different, right? But in the US, you can see, like, oh, how about Pastor? Like here in the Philippines, if you would know that, for example, a car is owned by a Catholic, because you would see like
Right.
rosary beads, right?
Yeah.
Is that also in the US?
So, and I'll be fair. Obviously, I wasn't looking for these things when I was a kid. I wasn't even saved until I'm a
Yeah.
teenager and everything. I don't remember seeing that though. I mean, I'm sure, there's probably going to be some taxi drivers, some that might be religious that might have that, especially if you're driving, you might be in a big city, you might be kind of scared all the time. You want that lucky charm or whatever.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that. I mean, the most I've seen in America is like the athlete doing the sign of the cross or whatever when they steal a base, but nothing like here. Like here, where people are stopping at Catholic churches while they're driving to quickly,
The sign of the cross.
yeah, it's just like, man, dude, keep driving. I've never
Yeah.
seen that in the U.S. It's so. I haven't seen it. I mean, I'm sure some people have dealt with it. I didn't grow up Catholic, but you just don't see idols as you're out and about. You just don't see these things.
Yeah. But here in the Philippines, like it's crazy, right? Just like I said, you can identify if a owner of a vehicle is a Catholic, because even in motorcycles, like you think of a motorcycle, you cannot fit a rosary there, but there's a rosary in under the
But what's crazy to me is some of these drivers, like I've met or know a little bit, and maybe they're trying to give the gospel, and I can tell they don't really live a very godly life.
Yeah.
But they got those rosary beads that they're clutching onto, and it's just like, because on the surface, people would assume if you're really idolatrous, you're very spiritual and living a very godly life.
Right.
And of course, we talk about that a lot in the documentary itself, but then everyone here knows from example, their relatives that are super Catholic and super idolatrous are going out and getting drunk by and large. They're not living these godly lives.
Yeah.
So
So, like Pastor A, for uh, what do you mean? How can you define like the idolatry in a nutshell like that?
well, idolatry, when you're thinking, because people have debates about stuff. Like I've heard a lot of debates, as we talked about in America, of things that I would not define as idolatry. And obviously, people can differ on their opinions, but we're looking at a religious symbol that people are attaching something supernatural to. Now, they might not admit they're attaching something supernatural to it, but here in the Philippines, Catholics aren't going to say when they're bowing down to that cross, they think there's some magic power, but they do.
Right.
Yeah, it's like they're attaching like something, I'm not sure if this is the perfect way to define it, just kind of the way I would think about it. It's like when you're having something that you're giving like some sort of supernatural action, like you touch it, it's going to heal you or whatever. Because obviously there's statues of lots of different things out there. I don't define all of those things as idolatry, but then when you got this religious symbol and then you're attaching something supernatural to it, it's like, and you're turning that object, because if you make a physical object, this is not an idol, but it can become an idol if you decide to start praying to it. I made kind of the silly example of the sermon, like I took a cup, it's like you put eyes to it. Yeah. It's nothing. It's a physical object. That's what the Bible speaks about. It's just an object. It can't see, can't hear, can't do any of that. But then once you start bowing down and praying to it, now you're attaching something supernatural, like it's standing in the place of God. And obviously with Catholics, they have all of these idols that they go to. I would say that when you look at things like the cross, people can start doing that as well. That might not be Catholic, but it's like they kind of clutch it for good luck or whatever. And it's just kind of like you're turning it into an idol. They might not do it to the level the Catholics or the Hindus would do, but you're still, crossing that line, in my opinion. I think we should stay away from religious symbols that we turn into something like extra special.
Right. Yeah, I agree on that because like I remember your preaching, like when you pray to that to that object, you're drawing, you're attracting those bad spirits.
but they're like cool in the document.
Yeah.
Yeah, we go super into like it's gonna be so the thing that's interesting about this is that Catholics don't understand idolatry, right? By and large. Hindus do. They don't deny the fact that they're worshiping idols, and like that's where you get a lot of the stuff in the documentary. The deep understanding is in a lot of things that we the articles online, but a lot of the swamis and gurus, and that was the cool part, because I told Brother Chris, like, this stuff's super hard to find because I've listened to like hundreds of hours of these Hindu swamis and gurus because I said it's like an interesting topic to me. So even before we were doing the documentary, I had heard things here and there, but it's kind of hard to find it again. And they don't openly answer all the questions. Kind of like with any religion, they kind of hide some of the things they believe. But it's like they don't hide the fact though that they worship idols. Like they'll say that, and they're what Catholics are doing is the same. They're just defining it differently.
Yeah.
And you can call it a saint, and a Hindu can call it a god, but there's no difference in what you're actually doing there.
Yeah, I mean the material itself. Yeah. So let's talk about the documentary and the experience of doing. Because obviously, Brother Mark here is also part of that documentary, and Brother Kyle, I don't know if Brother Kyle can really talk to us. Salita ka nga bro, kasi hindi ka namin marinig talaga. I don't know if it's just on the audio or something like that, but Brother Kyle's also help us really a lot with the audio. Kasi sa atin, ano to eh, this is something new, right? As I've said, like, I didn't even realize that I'm gonna be able to finish or do the documentary.
And the music's very important. Yeah. It really like ties everything together. You get the greatest information. Without music, we're so used to it, it's hard to make it interesting. So Kyle's work was right. We needed that. Yeah.
So yeah, that's really what makes it help. Because when I was doing the documentary, I know the information is really interesting and things like that. But I was thinking like, how can we make the viewers, finish that whole 1.5 hour of documentary?
And the thing is, we didn't want it to be that long. There's just so much information. Like we're saying, we can do a part 2. Yeah. There's so much information on idolatry that people aren't aware of. It's like...
Even in the Philippines, like obviously we're gonna launch the documentary in this January because of the Black Nazarene, where that's the main festivity in the Philippines that we covered. But there are like other other festivities like idolatrous festivities in the Philippines that were not in the documentary. Like it's a struggle to me how we can add all those things, because we have like, for example, in Bicol we have the Piña Francia festival, which is like a big festival where they won't bother if it's raining or if it's something disastrous gonna happen. They need to float that, and there's also instance in, I think it was in Bulacan, the pagoda.
There's also in Bulacan.
Alam mo ba yun?
Yeah, it's a if you like saw it in past documentaries of Pagoda, it's a tragedy, right?
Yeah.
It's in 1992 that it's happened, and the idol was a cross, and what they do is that they kind of parade the idol in the river. And then what happened? And they overloaded because people were like, we wanted to ride with the idol. Yeah. So the capacity of the boat was like 200, but they overloaded it to 800 because people really want to.
I'm not sure if you watched a lot of my sermons in Pampanga, because obviously I preach kind of the same thing. But when I'm preaching in the building there, every once in a while I stop because there's an idolatrous festival right outside, and you might not hear it on the audio. We hear like it will be a distraction. Of course, when you preach, you got to get used to distractions. So I turn it into a joke. I stop. I look outside. I say, "Oh, there's Mary going down the street." Because we're right by the big, famous, historic church in Santo Rosario in Angeles City. And so, some of the filming was from inside that church. They thought we were just kind of touring, but we were actually inside. It wasn't a green screen, right? But we have stuff like when we used to live beside there, and so sometimes they have a lot of idolatrous festivals, especially this time of year. You're getting toward Christmas.
Yeah.
Even in Ubando, Bulacan.
Yeah.
They have this feast like if you want to give birth like.
Oh, that's a good idea for the next one.
If you you have to carry this.
That's it.
In the crazy world we live in, there's probably a lot of guys that are trying to participate in this, right?
Yeah.
No, but it's only for ladies, though.
Yeah.
I hope so. What if you identify as a lady, though?
Yeah, because but I think that idea that bundle thing is like a good for the next documentary that we're gonna do.
They even, they even have, they gonna embrace this Sangonia thing. Then,
Yeah,
And
and then
a lot of superstition involved in idolatry, which that's in the documentary we'll talk about it. But
yeah, that could be part two, right? Because yeah, because after this, like, what do you think we can expand this? Because like as I've said, like there are a lot of more festivities that we didn't cover in the Philippines. We have a Sinulog in Cebu, for example. Especially that Cebu right now is like bombarded with all of these disasters, and a lot of Christians were thinking like, you know, maybe it's because of the idolatry of Cebu that these things are happening. So what do you think, Brother Mark, if you're going to be asked, and Pastor, what do you think would be the next part? What would be the topics that we can include in the next part of the documentary?
for like idolatry part
Yeah,
two,
yeah.
yeah, I think the face
So
that's
the superstitions behind it. Yeah.
uh, yeah, pass it off.
I still think that there's a lot of the deeper stuff behind it we could go into. Maybe we could go into like the roots of the Filipino culture itself and how the ancient, Anitism or basically animistic, native folk religion, whatever you want to call it, how that kind of merged with Catholicism. What's interesting though about this is like all these documentaries we're doing, they're all kind of associated with idolatry.
Right.
Right.
I mean, because like I was thinking about that when I preached a sermon for the Penitubo, and it's like I was like, idolatry is the cause, and
Yeah.
it's like idolatry is such a major sin, and it's so hard to understand as an American because you just don't see it, and it's like associated with all of these issues.
Right.
Yeah, and you know what? One thing that I think would be a little bit different about this documentary is that usually when an American does a documentary about idolatry, like for example in Hindu, they portray it as something good.
Yeah.
Right.
They're like that guy who's got his arm stuck out. Oh, I can't get my arm down. That's so cool, man.
Yeah. Whereas this documentary kind of rips it, right? So I think the documentary would be really good.
Yeah.
Actually,
I think Americans, like, even if they're not godly or even if they don't consider themselves spiritual, they think it's cool because, like, wow, those people are so spiritual. They haven't seen it in America. And, even if they don't think of it as a good thing, it's like almost a bizarrely awesome thing to them because it's so unique. In America, they're associated with sports and entertainment, music, movies, all that stuff.
yeah.
So,
If they see a person that is super zealous about religion, they, because I didn't put it in the documentary because there's no more space in it anymore, but there was like an interview with by Rappler, which is a major news source here in the Philippines, and they were interviewing an American, and it was like, oh, this is so cool, the devotion that they had for the Black Nazarene. It's like, but especially if you're a Baptist, like you think about like this is a disaster, like you know I mean, when we started the church here in Manila, we had to move. Remember that, Pastor? We have to move the Wednesday service because the Wednesday service would be, you know,
on the Black Nazarene.
on the Black Nazarene week.
Yeah, no, it's like in America, you don't have these issues, but yeah, we have to change church services sometimes for some of these religious holidays. It's just
Yeah.
just very different.
So it's like it. It also, I want to add on the another like topic on the part two or part three of the documentary. Have you ever heard about idolatry on a dark side, like uh praying on oración like that?
So you're like saying it's almost like a voodoo type thing, like they're
Yeah.
doing evil,
Yeah.
magical sort of things.
But they also use like Santo Niño.
So they use that to cast some spell on someone or something, like do something.
Like they do this.
Yeah, I'm not familiar.
They use that. But they distinguish these things like white magic,
Hmm.
black magic, like that. So there are some beliefs in our province, like if you they use these statues, they use this no relics or whatever you call that, then they will pray for it, to fight like the
They'll say it's white magic.
yeah.
Yeah, so I did see this documentary online before. This I think it was an American, maybe he's European, but he went up to the top of a mountain to talk to this Albulario, this old man, every stereotype. And this guy, the main thing he does is he does white magic and he casts out voodoo spells. Oh, I've seen documentaries on voodoo, and it's the darkest, most sinister, satanic stuff. But they'll say they do white magic. Almost everybody will say that their magic is white. Very few look at themselves being on the bad side of things. So, but of course, from a Christian perspective, it's like Harry Potter's a sorcerer. He'd be put to death in real life. It's like the good magic, it's all bad, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think, because remember that, brother, when you and brother Franklin, actually went to Quiapo. We have actually footage of those people that are selling around the Quiapo street.
some of the videos.
Yeah, which is actually, it's not in the documentary, right? So we can actually use those footages later on.
Have these candles like they like black candle, red candle. They use it to like you know uh they will use like prayers like the Our Father, the Lord's Prayer. They will as part of their like witchcraft or things like that. Because I also remember my grandmother, back then, it's like she's a devotee Catholic. Yeah. And so when I was young, like when every summer break I go there, then I take a vacation for 2.5 months. I'm gonna help my mom from to my our merchandising business. Then we have this routine, like we have to pray. She will wake us up like 3 o'clock in the morning. Then we're gonna pray like Hail Marys, we like the rosary days. Yeah. Then we have to pray it in a Latin language. So I was like, why is it that? Oh, why do we have to pray in a Latin language? And I remember my grandmother saying to us like, because the Latin language is the powerful language. They think there's something supernatural about that language. Basically.
Well, the Catholic Church, like, yeah, like all the popes and all, they speak Latin fluently. It's like, why are you taking a language that nobody else speaks?
Yeah.
But it's sort of like Muslims with Arabic, where there's something supernatural about. Even some people that are King James only can get that way about English, where they think there's something supernatural. Like you can't put, the gift of God into ang regalo ng Dios. It's like, no, you change it. It's like there's nothing supernatural about English.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think the reason why it's Latin is because it's a little bit connected also to the culture. Because when the Spaniards came here, all the mass were like in Latin. And what I learned from from the history class in our school is that my teacher said that that's the reason why when you look at these Filipinos, they tend to like uh give lean towards praying the rosary a little bit more important than attending the mass, because before they were like, they don't understand Latin, but they understand this particular.
So the rosary is done in Latin here by most people.
No, it's done by the local language.
Oh, okay.
But the mass is in Latin.
Is it still the mass is still in Latin here?
No.
Oh, it's
Changed a lot.
Within our province, I experienced like praying rosary in Latin. But that's
Did you feel something special? It's like
it's weird. Because I asked my grandmother like, because we pray in Latin every 3 o'clock in the morning only, not six not on 6 p.m. 12 midnight, only on 3 o'clock in the morning.
that's early.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we have to pray like for almost 1 hour. Then I asked her like, why are we doing this? Why is it that Latin? Then she told us like, no, 3 o'clock in the morning is it's the devil's hour. So then we have to pray in Latin. So
Fight him on his turf.
yeah. So it was like in my head.
I don't get the logic though.
Why? Bakit kailangan mag-pray ka sa this hour?
Yeah. I was like in my head, are we praying to them?
Yeah, I've heard worship. I've heard like Pentecostals say things like, "It's like, man, we gotta body slam the devil," right? It's like that's the sort of thing
Yeah, fight the devil.
But you've heard people. Have you ever heard people say during the end times they want to be here so they can fight the Antichrist? It's like, man, that's not what the end times is like. You're not gonna win.
Yeah.
It's not a boxing match. It's not a UFC fight.
So that's one of the like the it's like the dark side of those things, which they use these idols to
Yeah, and as you said, we don't want to talk about what's going to be in the documentary exactly, but you're attracting devils.
Yeah.
And we'll prove that through scripture and through quotes from the Hindus. And we'll see that is exactly what's happening, that they are attracting devils. And it's this weird, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy because they turn something into, they make this thing demonic. Now they're inviting devils. Now they actually do have a fight on their hands, although they're not going to fix it with their rituals. They're just causing more. So, like the people that are the most devoted, yeah, they can very well have the most devils that they got to deal with.
So what? How about? So let's. I want to be a little bit technical though. Like for example, how about ikaw, Mark? Where do you find uh doing the documentary, especially in our experience in doing the unknown God? What are the most challenges for you? Ano yung pinaka-challenging na ginawa mo?
I think when me and Brother Franklin go to the Black Nazarene,
The actual parade?
because if regular people, they will be amazed. Like the interview in Rapper Corner, they will say like these people are so devoted or have this, but the experience there is like most people there when you try to interview them, they're so they have this like devotion that they believe that every prayers that they will ask just by touching the Nazarene, it will be answered. So that's kind of the challenges for me, because in a sense that these people, if only hear the truth, or this like, because because idols are just like impotent blocks of woods or blocks of stones or woods, and they're and the power that they believe, if there's any, exists only in their mind. And also just like what you preach, they're attracting those powers. So the challenging is, it's like when we reach out to these people and we ask them if we can have an interview. Some of them, like they are even crying. Some of them they don't want to be interviewed because they have these mixed emotions, because some of them, like they pagdating nila, hindi po nila naabutan yung Black Nazarene, so they walk for almost like an hour. Then when they arrive in Luneta, they didn't naabutan yung Black Nazarene. So some of them, the challenges is like, if they can only hear the gospel, or hear the truth, then they will not have this wasting their time on going there.
Yeah, one thing I think is important. We bring it out in a documentary because you do a documentary like this, and people can get sensitive and feel like you're installing them. Because I've never practiced any form of idolatry. I didn't grow up Catholic. I always thought it was weird because I didn't grow up in it. But we have people in our church that used to be very into idolatry and went to some of these things. This is not us saying that those people are stupid because they did that. Everybody does what they're taught growing up, and they don't understand why sometimes, but they do it, and it becomes like this superstitious thing they do. And so we're not saying that what they're doing is stupid, but that doesn't mean that they're stupid.
Right.
Everybody growing up in that family, I mean, if we grew up in a Hindu home, we would do a lot of stupid things. Right, I've seen here in the Philippines, my old neighbor before he moved, he's Hindu, and he's bowing down and praying to a plant. That's stupid.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to say that he's stupid. I didn't really know him that well, but people just do rituals, and they don't understand why they're doing it, right? They just kind of follow whatever. So
Yeah, especially if you grew up Catholic. In my perspective, because I grew up Catholic, and I consider myself before like I'm a zealous Catholic. Like I was almost to be priest. Right.
some things you shouldn't admit publicly. It's like if you're being Baptist pastor, it's like, oh no,
No, but
it's on blood, brother.
no, but what I say, what I want to say is like, when you participate in those things, like, because you were raised out like that, and the only thought like that in your mind was like, hey, this is the way we worship God and things like that. So I was like even asking myself like, why people are so mad. When I was still Catholic, people were asking like, why are you worshiping these things? Like, for example, we had like this, the station of the cross, where in Lenten season, like the Good Friday, they parade. How many crosses are there? Like 12 crosses there, and then you have to kneel in each cross.
Mm.
But the cross is in the streets, like it's a rough, you know, the streets. So, like, there's some hesitation to me, like to kneel, but you can't do anything about it because people are kneeling, and you just you think that that's what it's just natural for people. So I don't think that people that's the reason why I'm also very passionate about the documentary, because I think that this will I'm hoping that this would be an eye opener, right?
So that there's people like you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that are kind of open, to learning the reason behind, and eventually realizing that that's a wrong way to worship God,
Right.
and go to the truth, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's because I think that's the way we should do documentaries. Like when people are like, because I think when especially in our times today, like the social media and YouTube are really popular. I think we should put more content out there like this, where people can it can what do you call that? They can ignite the mind to think about their belief, not just blindly following their religion and things like that. So what do you think about that, Pastor? What do you think? What are you hoping about this documentary to achieve?
Well, I wouldn't want to do a documentary on a topic unless there's great information to learn. There's no question whether someone's unsaved or saved, they've been saved for a while, or so on. There's information you're going to learn. It's kind of like when you preach sermons.
Okay.
If either of you studied a topic and preached a sermon and dove into a passage, I would learn from that. And it's like anybody who's spirit filled, they study the passage. There's things to learn, to be edified, none of us know everything. Great information to learn, but it's got to be entertained, which we talked about. Then it's, can we reach a large mass of people? Now, of course, I would love for unsaved people to watch the whole documentary, hear the gospel presentation at the end, and get saved. But if we're able to reach a lot of people, which is the goal, more than likely they wouldn't necessarily get saved immediately after
Right.
watching the gospel presentation. But, there's a lot of unsaved people that because I've known many people through the years where they came across online preaching and they started listening because it was new to them. They never heard it, and they listened for a while, and they end up getting saved. I know someone in West Virginia. We invited him to come to church. He had been listening to sermons online. It was a long time ago, more than 10 years ago. And he came out soul with us. A few days after I'd messaged him, because he's from my hometown, he came out with me, and he came out soul winning as a silent partner. He wanted to learn. He told me a few years later that I got him saved out soul winning, and he had been listening online for a long time.
That's a cool
And
story.
it's awesome, but it's also a reminder to us, just because someone's listening online, it's not the same thing as having a clear presentation of the gospel.
Yeah.
Right. And, a lot of people might see really interesting information. They watch a few minutes of the gospel presentation, they tune out. That's just kind of the way that it will often work. I would love to see people that would get saved immediately, but I would love it if people would just start listening to the preaching, even if they don't get saved. It's like new information, they're curious, and eventually that can lead to a lot of salvations, even if it doesn't come right away.
How about you, Brother Mark? What's your expectation about this
Uh,
in this documentary?
You know what? Based on like what I saw on the while we do the interview, when they watch this, I hope that this will be like an eye opener to them. The information, the beliefs that it's like for me, I also grew up very Catholic. So for me, there's this God, there's this like in common sense that there's this like this is wrong they're doing. They know that there's something wrong about what they're doing, but I hope that this documentary will like you know trigger them in a search for the truth, and also uh you know maybe that's it.
So here's the thing, like, you grow up Catholic. I'm not saying you, I'm saying in general. You grow up Catholic, you already have a sense this just doesn't feel right. It's just a piece of wood. You know that, but you haven't been given something that's a better option. So, like here in the Philippines, people leave the Catholic Church and they join INC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though there's a lot of problems there, but they realize Catholicism is wrong. This is why some people might hop from religion to religion to religion when they're unsaved and just try every different thing. I often joke with Brother Raji, because before he was saved, he said trying everything, right? Because you realize there's something wrong,
Yeah.
but you don't know the alternative.
You don't know where to go.
Exactly. And I think a lot of Catholics, they keep doing the rituals. They'll tell us they're Catholic, but like, there's a reason why they're receptive to the gospel. And so I definitely think a lot of these people that are doing these vain rituals are reachable, because inside a lot of people that are doing this, nothing's changed in their life. They've gone down and they've touched the Black Nazarene 5 times, and yet they have the same problems. They felt emotional when it happened, and then a couple weeks later, nothing's changed.
Right.
If we want to bring it to the Baptist world, it's kind of like going down to the altar call, to a much bigger level. But I'm just saying, you do it, nothing changes in your life, right?
Yeah.
You still have the same thing. You have that emotional experience, and the only difference would be with idolatry, it can be often demonic experience associated. And so I really do believe, I remember I watched a documentary on Hinduism years ago for the first time. And it was, it's this famous Hindu ritual. I don't know what it's called. I don't remember, but they do this super long hike in the mountains. Like, this temple was like at the top of this strenuous, difficult course, like several kilometers uphill. But then they get there, everyone has this recounts this emotional experience they had. I remember just coming to the realization when they said that, it's like, oh, wait a minute. I realize that's demonic. What they're talking about. It's not just, it's the fact there's actually devils inside that idol. That was a documentary that really opened up my mind to really understand this is not just something stupid. Because why is it people do this over and over again when it makes no sense? And over half the world's doing it?
Right.
There's something more behind it. And that's what we're going to be talking about, which I think is going to be new to almost every Baptist in the U.S. because they haven't thought of these things. They've never had to because they haven't dealt with it like we have.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you have any more
Last words.
things to say?
First, thank you, Pastor, for your time. So sorry for the delay.
That's fine. Technical difficulty sometimes.
And but
It's the devil fighting us. Right? So
I hope that yung manonood po nito is they will have this information, and abangan po nila yung aming documentary na The Unknown God, i-release sa January. And sana makatulong to sa kanila na magbigay ng katotohanan. At hanapin nila po yung katotohanan. Yun lang po.
How would you pass?
what I'm asking for people online to do, please share this. I mean, this is a very important documentary. Like, this is a topic that is over half the world's doing this. I mean, if you include Islam with the cube that they're worshiping, because they do the same thing as like the Black Nazarene. When you see videos of them, they go crazy. It's like, whoa, I didn't know they're Pentecostal Muslims. They're all acting Pentecostal when they touch that cube. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Over half the world is doing this. And the thing is, a lot of people that might watch this are going to be Americans, and they don't really deal with it. like we do, but they have to realize most of the world is doing this. There's something behind it. So, please share this. We want to get it to as many people as possible. The good thing for us here in the Philippines is we all have Catholic relatives, even if you don't have, like, I don't have Catholic relatives, but I'm married into, Catholic relatives. And so by sharing this, people might come across it. And even if they might disagree or get mad about it, they still might watch it and then they might learn. And that might be because, like, people trying to get Catholic relatives saved. You probably both have Catholic relatives, born a Catholic, raised a Catholic, I'll die a Catholic, right?
Yeah.
Die in the wool Catholic. But that might be that way on the surface. They might, though, this might be like the first thing to kind of, the small little jab that gets through where it's like they start to question things.
Yeah.
And it could be, I'm sure there's a lot of Catholics that would tell the story that are saved now where they had something they questioned 6 months later, something, and then eventually they were open to the gospel, even though they weren't open initially. And I think this documentary could do that, where it could really start to get people to question some of the things. Because I don't think people realize what the Catholic Church teaches. We go into it in the documentary about what they believe about the nature of God. People will be shocked to find out what the Catholic Church actually teaches. We got it out of the words of a Catholic priest that thankfully he knew and admitted what was true. I mean, and it's going to be shocking because you know what? Catholics are going to watch this and be like, whoa, I don't believe that. It's like they don't understand what their church is actually teaching. So this documentary could be the eye opener for that.
Yeah. So I want everybody to watch out for this documentary. We're gonna put this in our church YouTube channel, right, Pastor?
Yeah.
We're gonna upload it in Verity Baptist Church Manila. So we want you to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We want this to be everywhere. We want it in Facebook, in Instagram if possible, if in TikTok if possible, because this is for me and for the rest of us. I think it's safe to say that this is a very important topic that everyone should understand because especially in the world that we're living in, like especially in the Philippines, like there are a lot of natural disasters and things like that that are happening. It's important to realize that you're not worshiping the right God, the true God. And this is really a good eye opener. We spent a lot of time preparing this documentary, and we hope that this would do very well, and you watch this and you're gonna like it. Okay, so thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you,
Thank you, Brother Mark. And we're gonna see you again on the next Against the Tide.